Good day, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on the parenting of adult children. This is the first webinar of 4 that we will present on effective parenting. My name is Lizette de Villiers, and I will be the host for this session. Please note, we will be recording this webinar to make it available on our YouTube channel and allow you to share it with family, friends, and other interested parties. This recording will be available tomorrow on the Shadowmatch calendar, and we will also email this recording to everyone who registered and also attended today's webinar. You might have noticed, but your microphone is currently in a mute setting. It will remain like that for the duration of the webinar. At the end of the presentation, we will stop the recording and then allow for live questions. At this point, you will be able to unmute your microphone and then participate should you have a comment or a question. You are, however, welcome, should you wish to, post questions and comments in the chat during the course of the webinar. I will respond and also collate and present some of the questions to Pieter after the session. Allow me to introduce the presenter. Pieter de Villiers is the author and functional developer of Shadowmatch. He studied at the University of Pretoria and worked as a minister of religion in the Dutch Reformed Church for 12 years. Since his student years, Pieter had an interest and a passion in specialized support to people, especially the young generation seeking to build a meaningful life. Pieter did extensive research to understand why people fail and why people find themselves in a troubled situation. This research led to Pieter leaving the ministry and dedicating himself to understanding the patterns in people's behavior. His research then led to the development of Shadowmatch, a system used worldwide by many individuals, business, coaches, and other institutions to help people understand their habits. For more information on Shadowmatch, you can visit www.shadowmatch.com. Pieter authored several books. He's a keynote speaker and does a lot of training and executive coaching to help people understand themselves and craft a meaningful and successful life. Pieter is obsessed with helping build success for all. There's no better qualified and experienced person to present today's webinar. Pieter, thank you very much. We're looking forward to the session. Over to you.
Thank you, Lizette. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. This is a community initiative from the Shadowmatch team in support of obviously building better relationships and better future individuals. We will start with parenting of adult children, and then the next one will be parenting of teenagers, and then parenting of children that is technically between the ages of 7 and 12, and then preschool children that should actually be divided into 2 groups. We can obviously divide it wherever we want to, but mostly we divide the preschool group in two separate groups, but I will do them in one. That's the 4th webinar. For now, we will discuss, and I will go through my notes and discuss with you the principles and the practices of parenting of adult children. I want to share my notes with you so that we follow one another without losing track of the discussion. And from there on, then obviously at the end of the discussion, you are more than welcome to ask questions. I will answer them as good as I can. And we can then also tell you where to send an email if you would like to ask a more personal question that is not for public consumption. So parents of adults, responsible parenting is our topic for today. It's a community service event, and I will go through the notes with you as properly and in simplified method as I can. Let's have a look at the 4 groups that I work with. As I said, the early age group, this we can divide into 2 subgroups or into 2 separate groups. 0 birth to about 2.5, 3 years, and then 2.5, 3 to about 6.5, 7, 7.5, all depending on various aspects of the development of the child. But these are for the 4 development phases that I prefer working with, and there are other people and other academics and other research groups and publications that prefer a different grouping of the development phases of children. But this is the one that I have decided to work with. It works best for me. Parents form the child. In the early childhood, the parent is responsible to form, to give a specific form to the child in terms of their development. So it's a very strong shaping responsibility that the parents have. Just for the information of everybody, and it hasn't got any meaning, the child learns in the first 7 years of their development more than what they will learn in the rest of their lives, irrespective of what they do, irrespective of how old they become. The first 7 years, the child learns more than in the rest of their lives. It's a critical phase in their development. It is here where we as parents shape their identity and basic understanding of the world. The second phase, 6-7 years old to about 12-13, parents guide and direct their child. So you can see that the term is, the word that I use is now slightly less aggressive in the way that it doesn't shape the child. It gives direction and guidance to the child. The child is set in a specific track, direction, and social context. So it's more of a guidance role that the parent now play, but relatively strong. And then in the age group 13 to 14 to about 17 or 18 years old, 17/18, parents influence their children. Now, can you hear that the terminology now is again a bit softer? Because you cannot shape the child here. You cannot shape the child here. The shaping should have happened there. You cannot really guide the child in this phase. The guiding and putting the child into a specific track and direction should have happened here. So if things go wrong here, it's because it went wrong there and there. So now we can influence them. Yes, we can play a strong influential role on them, but we cannot really guide them anymore, and we cannot really form them anymore. We are now in a different space. The child develops independent identity, accountability, and readiness to launch. Readiness to launch is a technical term that's being used, that the child is sort of getting themselves ready to fly and to launch into the world of adulthood. And then parents of the 19 years, 20, well, it could start a bit earlier in some cultures, relative early, but in the more sort of the sophisticated or the Western way of seeing this, and with sophistication, what I mean is there's a prolonged schooling process and learning and development with university but about from the age of 19 to 20 and onwards, parents advise their children, but as equals, only when asked. You are no longer an advisor if you are not asked. So this is the first thing. So if you have this picture in mind, you can obviously look at it again when you, if you want the recording. This is some research that I was personally involved with. It's been replicated later, and it's still one of the better understandings of the demand of the relationship. If we put on this axle the demands of the relationships on parents, in other words, what is the weight and the impact and the expectation that the relationship places on the parent? In short terms, in simple terms, how tough is it to manage the child's relationship, the relationship with the child? And on the horizontal line here, we have the age of children in years. When the child is born, there's an immediate spike in the demand on the parent. It immediately increases to a level where the parent feels it's very tough. but it's not tough. It's a child, it's an infant, it's a preschool, it's a toddler. There's no crisis unless it's a medical crisis that the parents shouldn't be able to deal with relative ease. Well, medical, there could be challenges that are very tough. But then after about a year and a half, the parents report that they feel there's a bit of a relaxation in the demand from the relationship. Then from the age of 2 to 7, there's a sort of a flat line, slight increase in the demands that the parents feel from the relationship with their children. From 7 to 13, also sort of flat line, slow increase in the expectation, the demand, and the pressure that the parents feel from the relationship. But then there, things change. Somewhere between 12, 13, 14, here somewhere, things change. Suddenly the expectation, the demand, and the pressure from the relationship on the parents start to increase quite in a steep gradient. So it's a relative harsh increase of pressure, demands, and expectations and responsibilities on the parents. Suddenly things changes in a relatively short period of time, and the demands on the parents become extremely tough and high. And they report that this is quite a tough time of their parenting role. And then at the age, somewhere here between 15 and 17, 18, here, somewhere here, there's a spike. There's a sudden increase in the demands from the relationship. It then sort of eases off. There's a little bit of, it becomes a bit calm, and then there's an increase, and we don't have the numbers and the research beyond the age of about 30, 32, 33, 34, but the demands from the relationships increase on the parents. Now, if we take a look at what is the capacity for the parents to deal with the demands that's been brought into their lives from their children. So I will now show you a second graph overlaying this one, and that is the capacity of parents to meet and absorb the relationship demands of their children. So how capable am I as a parent to meet the demands that's been placed on me from the relationship with my child/children? Here it goes. For the majority, this is what the line looks like. So when the child is born, I have a huge capacity to deal with the relationship challenges. Yes, I know the mothers might say to me, but you haven't been looking after a toddler 24/7 for 7 days. I have. Relax. I have. Calm. Relax. I had 3, and they were quite close to one another. I've been there. I know what it is. But the point is, I had a huge capacity to deal with it. And this is being reported by many parents in a research project. When I was still in the ministry, I headed up this research. So what happens then is the capacity of parents to deal with the challenges that's been brought into their lives as the demands of the relationships is being put on them as parents. Their capacity to deal with the relationship challenges decline. They just don't have it. And at a point, this is the danger point. That is the danger point, where the capacity of the parent to deal with the demands of the relationship with their child then that is being exceeded by the demands. So the parents just cannot live with this anymore. They collapse. They cannot live with it anymore. And this normally, for the majority of parents, it happens here in this danger zone. And then obviously, as the children age and the parents have experienced a decline in their capacity to deal with the relationship challenges, this gap increases and the tension in the relationship starts to build up. There are parents, about 10% of them, about 10% of parents in the feedback groups told us that they've reached that point when the child was 14 years old. So they would say, oh, no, I've reached this point long ago. No, I couldn't. But when my children was about 12, 13, 14, I've had it. I couldn't deal with it anymore. But that's a minority group. It's about 10% of parents that experience this, and it's normal. It's a very demanding relationship. Some parents, also about 10%, they have a different line, and this is also a small group in terms of the percentage. They start quite high, obviously, and they retain that line, and then somewhere here there's a bit of a hiccup, there's a bit of a tension, there's a bit of an arm wrestle, and then they settle, and for one or other reason they get it right to keep their capacity above the line of the demands of the relationship. Obviously, this is what we want to do. This is the exact thing that we want to do. There will be a moment, obviously in relationships there are moments, but we want to do this and not one of the previous ones. We don't want that. But this is unfortunately where the majority sits. The minority sits here. So we must try and become part of that minority group so that we can grow that group. So what we're going to do is let's talk about these adults that are also referred to as children. This is the first thing, dear participants and listeners, is let's ask the question, who are adults? People who can function independently, not necessarily without help, but not continuously help dependent. An adult is a person who can function independently. That doesn't mean I never need anybody to help me. That's not what I'm saying. It says, for the majority of my responsibilities, my tasks, and my actions, I'm independent. Then the second thing, it's people who understand the rules of society. Now, dear delegates, our society has rules. There are some things that society teaches us that is acceptable, and some of the things are not acceptable. So an adult is someone who understands these basic principles of life. I just have a few. There are much more. But the most important ones are hard work, work hard, stay within the law, look after themselves and their loved ones, respect everything and everybody around you, etc. These are the rules. An adult is a person who understands these rules, and for the majority of time and moments in their lives, they respect and they adhere to those rules. Then people who hold themselves accountable. Accountability is a very critical tick box on the list of adults. It's a person who says, I'm responsible for my life, my success, and my happiness. So I take ownership. I am the owner of my success. I am the owner of my life. I am the owner of my career, my future, my happiness. I am responsible and accountable. And if things go wrong, I'll stand up to it. The number 4 on the list is people who understand and respect boundaries. Boundaries are very important things in our lives, dear delegates. Pain is being caused when we overstep boundaries and we penetrate the boundaries of other people's lives, their bodies, their society. They look at what happened now in Ukraine with Russia breaking the boundaries. It causes pain. So physical, emotional, relationships, financial, and many other boundaries must be respected. That is a sign of an adult. And they live within their own boundaries. Obviously, I must respect your boundaries and I must live within my boundaries. And that is the way in which we found mutual respect to one another. Number 5 on the list is people who respect their environment. This is an extension of number 4. but respect for the environment is respect for the society, legal environment, financial, physical environment, nature, etc., etc., etc. These are all the 5 markings of an adult. So when are we adults? Obviously, when we do all of the above with relative ease. This is when we are adults. By the time you reach the age of 18, 19, latest 20, you should be able to tick those boxes. Not to perfection, not to perfection. Nobody's perfect. Remember, keep in mind, the heading of this discussion is nobody's perfect. We make mistakes, but for the majority of time, we should tick those boxes. Some people much earlier, some much later, and some never. Some people never tick those boxes. They never reach the maturity of being qualified as an adult, as a mature individual. But by the age of 20, the individual must show positive behavior on all the key points of an adult. That's it. By the age of 20, this is sort of a deadline. The individual must show positive behavior on all the key points of an adult. Not perfect, but positive and acceptable within their known society. Remember, always within the context, within the society, within the environment where you grew up. In other words, the known society. Now we come to the first mistake we make as parents. And keep in mind, I include myself in the group of making mistakes. But let's stop making these mistakes, including myself. This statement of adult children is an impossible statement. These 2 circles exclude one another. An adult is not a child, and a child is not an adult. There's no such thing as an adult child. We refer to this because of a mindset. That is, that these people are my children, they are adults. Now, this is the first thing that we must get our minds around, is that adults are not children. They are adults. The fact that they are my children doesn't change the fact that they are adults. The fact that they grew up in my household and I have formed and shaped and influenced and guided them doesn't inhibit the fact that they become adults. So the term adult children, we must in some way try to delete it. This is a critical mindset change for us as parents of adults, that we must understand that these individuals are not children, they are adults. So when we work with them as adults, there are a number of things that we must adhere to and that we must respect. Adults must be in an adult-adult relationship, not in a parent-child relationship. It's not sustainable and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for the parent, doesn't work for the child or for the adult child. And now keep in mind, I'm using the term, and I know I shouldn't use it, but I've got to use it. So it's a relationship of equals. Now, what I'm saying to myself, and if you want to listen to it, listen carefully. If I treat my child that is an adult as a child, I am wrong. I am wrong. If I treat the relationship in a parent-child format, I'm wrong. That's it. Step out of it. I shouldn't do it. I must treat this person as a person who grew up in my household, who has been shaped by my influence and my household and my way of doing things. I must respect the person as an individual of equal adult status. It's not a parent-child relationship. That's the first thing that we must get out of the way. So it's a relationship of respect and a relationship of equality. We should rather think about it as parents of adults, equals in the relationship. This is the critical point and the first mind shift that we must make. And that is when the child turns 17, 18, 19, 20, It's an important moment in our lives to treat that young adult, as an equal in a relationship of equals. Then what I will do now is I will show you 10 things that we don't do as parents of adults. Never humiliate your child. Let me give you some good advice and let me warn you. They will get you back. You cannot win the fight against a child. You can bank on it. If you humiliate an adult person that is being, and you've given yourself the authority to humiliate this adult, you will pay for it. That child will bite you one day and you will pay for it. Don't do it. Never in your life do it. The second thing is stop checking and micro-controlling them. I have had extensive experience with fights between adult children and their parents about the parents not wanting to leave them. They don't want to leave them to go on a vacation, to go away for a weekend. They don't trust them. They watch over their shoulder. They micro-control them. They micromanage them. They want to know where they are. Stop it. Just stop it. It's going to bite you as the parent. You're going to lose your child. The child will move away from the relationship. And eventually, you might just not see them again, or you might see them once every 3 months. And they are running away. Children, adults, young adults run away from parents, not run away in terms of I'm going to Bosnia now and fighting the war against the Russians or something like that. Run away is they exclude themselves socially from their parents. They distance themselves. And if the parents say, when do we see you again? They say, oh, no, you know what? I've got something on this weekend and we're going away with friends and I'm going on a camp and blah. Always a reason. And very friendly, very polite, very nice. But the parents just don't see them. Why? Because they have micro-controlled them for too long. And they have checked on them and detail managed them for too long. And the young adult has reached a point of saturation and said, I'm not going to my parents again because they want to know, where was I? Why did I do this? Why didn't I do this? I don't want to be there. So what happens? The parents then, they lose their child. They lose the adult as a close relationship. Stop instructing and telling. Now, dear parents, and obviously from the young adults that has joined us, the one thing that parents must stop doing is you are not an instructor and you are not somebody to tell your adult child. The person is an adult. You've got to respect that. If they do what you don't like, live with it. If they do something that you think is wrong, live with it. The time to shape and form them is gone. What you do is you lose them. When they were 6 years and 7 years and 8 and 10 and 12 years old, it was not so easy for them to turn their backs on you. Now it's easy. Remember, now it's easy and they can do it. And they don't have to be harsh or ugly to do it. Stop it. Stop telling and stop instructing your child. It's a sort of a parent thing to tell. I'm going to tell my children what is the right thing to do. Who told you what is right? What makes you so superior? I have worked with young adults that are 10 times smarter than their parents. Many times. I've worked with a youngster in grade 8 that was emotionally and intellectually his parents superior 5 notches above them. He was right on ethical issues and they were wrong. And he was in grade 8. So I have a funny feeling that we must just step down as parents from our high horses and say, but who told me that I'm right? Who gave me that authority? So we must stop telling and 1 to 4. The brother of number 3 is stop knowing more. I find that parents always know more than their children. Their children could have studied engineering and they have a master's degree in engineering, then the parents would say, but let me tell you now, you've been at university for many years, but let me tell you how this works. And they talk rubbish. They talk rubbish. And the child then just out of decency says, yes, Dad, it's true. They walk away. You know what they think? They think this man is an idiot. That's what they do. They walk away. And the more we tell them, that what we actually do is the more we tell and lecture them, the more we show them how little we know as parents. So it's something that we mustn't do. If you don't do it to me as a mature adult and an equal to you, then don't do it to your children because they are also mature adults. I will tell you a story when we are done and we have time. Stop preaching, playing moral games. Now, dear parents and young adults, the moral games must never be played. Not when the child is 5 years old. It creates guilt feelings. It creates a judgment relationship, a relationship that is judgmental. It is a game that we play to make young adults that we refer to as our children feel guilty. It doesn't work. Life is much easier with friends than with people that are hostile towards us. This makes an adult hostile to you. And irrespective whether it's your child or not, you create hostility. You create a negative experience of the relationship in the mind of the young adult, and they just walk away. And they experience the relationship to be negative. It's a moral game that's been played by parents. And we tend to do it, all of us, we like doing this. Stop all guilt trips. Obviously, it's these things attached to one another. But guilt trips doesn't work. It's the brother of moral games and preaching and lecturing and teaching and telling and instructing. And then eventually it ends up, how must I feel as your father? What do you mean? Why do you say these things? Why would you like your child, your adult, young adult child to feel, oh, I've now hurt my parents? Get out of it. Get out of it. It doesn't work. It doesn't build the relationship. It makes the relationship negative, and you cannot expect the young adult to stay in a relationship with their parents just because of biological attachments, unless there's a financial one as well. But that is as negative. Never bargain with your child. This is something that we must learn, and we must do it whether the child is preschool, early school, primary school, high school, teenager, or whether the child is an adult. Never try a business deal with your child. The relationship is not meant for business. The relationship is a parent-child relationship of love and friendship. It's not a business relationship. You cannot say to your child, if you do this, I'll give you that. So that's business. It is wrong. We can argue with this for as long as we want to. The approach from parents to say to children, if you do this and this and this, I will buy you this and this and this, is wrong. That's it. You must either say, I expect from you to do this and this, and be honest, use the I sentence. I would like you to do this and this, or I prefer you to do this and this, but not attach this. Then if you get that, I'll buy you this, or I'll give you this, or I'll organize this for you. That is not how a parent-child relationship should be structured. Never mind your child of anything, never remind your child of anything negative from the past. We love doing this as parents. We love it. You remember when you were 16 years old and this happened, and I had to bail you out and I had to pay the fine. And what you actually say is, I expect now from you to recover that damage in our relationship. Never remind your child about anything negative from the past. It's a revenge strategy that does not work. You're building a troubled relationship with that young adult. Don't do it. Then don't expect your child to achieve what you couldn't achieve. Let's stop there. I have a problem with this. And I'm all the parents that are in our virtual room must please understand that if you ask me a question, I am on the side of the children, always. I'm always on the side of the children, even if they are young adults. It's going to be very difficult to convince me not to be on their side. But let me share with you the problem that I have with this. I've worked with parents. They want their children, teenagers or young adults at university to get these marks for their exams and their degree or their final year in high school or college or whatever it is. And then the child becomes so stressed because they're not living up to the expectation of their parents, and they come and see me. And then I say to them, go ask your parents for their final year exam results in high school. Ask them. I've done this a few times and the parents were very cross with me, but rightly so. I will teach them something. If you want your child to cum laude their degrees, show them the ones that you have cum laude. If you want your child to get straight A's in final year high school, show them your straight A's. Show them that. Set the example. If not, then calm down, relax. Teach your child and motivate them and set an example to be their best. This is what we must learn as parents. We must set an example of a hardworking person doing my utter best to be my best. That example gives you a platform to stand on, to say to your child, this is what we do in this family. We work hard and we do our best. We live our best. I am the example. Follow me. That's what we do as parents. If you're not the example, get off. Get off. Then teach your child to be their best. Don't set an example that is not sustainable unless it's a true example. Now what we want to do is, what are the 10 positive building blocks for a good parent adult-child relationship? I'm convinced, dear delegates, that our relationships are the most fragile, but our most critical anchors of happiness. Our relationships are very fragile. We can see it all over the world. We kill one another. The animals get it as a better result than us. The animals get their relationships right in a more positive manner than what we do as intellectual beings. Well, so we think. But the relationships that we have around us are fragile, but they are the most critical building blocks towards a life of happiness and fulfillment. We cannot get away from this fact. I have never seen somebody with a history of compromised and challenged relationships and the person is happy. I still need to see that. It doesn't work that way. Relationships are critical for our own happiness. So what I will do now is I will show you 10 things that we as parents of adults must focus on. Make this real. Your child never failed. They learned. Don't remind your child about failures in their lives. Remind them about wonderful learning moments they had. Some of them may have been hard. Some of them may have been tough, but it wasn't a failure. It was a moment for them to learn. And it was a positive moment. It was a wonderful moment because if it didn't happen, they were not in a position to learn some of the basic and most critical truths in life. That's a positive approach. And help them to learn from these so-called failures in the most positive way you can, because you are, as the parent, the senior person in the relationship. You are always and unconditionally on their side. This is the challenge of parenting. You are always, not sometimes, not most of the times, you are always and unconditionally on their side. It doesn't matter what happened, doesn't matter what they did. Does that mean that I have to approve everything they do? No, doesn't mean that. Does it mean that I have to be soft and kind and friendly, irrespective of what they do? No, that's not what I said. What I said is, I'm always on their side. So if they are in trouble because of their own wrongdoing, I tell them that this has been wrong. It's a problem. I'm here to help you get out of it in a positive way. I make it very clear to them, this was wrong. Let me help you get out of it. That's it. You are always on their side. Nothing you do for them is aimed at getting something back. Never do something for a child, irrespective of their age, but more so for young adults and adult children, with the expectation of getting something back. You owe me. You know what? I have given you this, I've paid for this, I've paid for your high school, I've paid for your tennis lessons, I've paid for your golf clubs, I've paid for you, I've bought you a car, and now this is what I get back. Relax, relax. It'll probably happen. Just bear with it. Never do something with the mindset of my children, when they are adults, must pay back. That's a business relationship. That's not a parent relationship. That's not a love and a friendship relationship. That's something different. If you attend the next webinar that we have on teenagers, I'll show you a video that will explain this, but I don't want to do it now because it's not so powerful in this session. Always be positive, friendly, and supportive. Be an anchor for them. Now, what do I mean with this? What I mean is, it doesn't matter what happens to the child, whether they are right or wrong, in trouble because of their own wrongdoing, or they have some difficulties with a relationship or at work or whatever. They must have one thing in their mind, and that is, when I go to my parent, I know that I can trust them to be on my side. When I go to my dad or to my mom, I know it. They will not judge me. They will not chase me away. They will not remind me of some moral issues or something. They might say to me, oh, this is a bit of a challenge, but let me help you. They are the anchor of my life that I can go and trust and hang on to, knowing that I've got somebody to hold on to, irrespective of what happens in my life, what life does to me, and what I sometimes do to life. Always bring harmony and peace into a relationship, irrespective of the fact that your adult child is an adult. You are the senior person in the relationship. And as the senior person in the relationship, you've got to bring harmony, you've got to bring peace, you've got to quiet things down and calm the relationship so that it can work. It's your responsibility as the parent. Cannot expect the child, irrespective of their age, to do it. You are the senior in the relationship. At least that's the minimum that you must take ownership of. As the senior in the relationship, always bring harmony, make the relationship quiet, make it calm, bring peace, and settle the relationship so that we can work towards a positive outcome in the interest of the relationship and the young adult we refer to as our children. Play, laugh, enjoy. This must dominate the moments you have with your adult children. This is a relationship of joy. It's a relationship of laughter. It's a relationship where we play. We have a light-hearted relationship where we trust one another and we enjoy one another's company and we enjoy things together. Don't lose sight of this important point. We must create moments that we enjoy with our adult children. And remember, I don't like the term adult children. Always talk with a calm voice. Now, to all the parents, never raise your voice for a child. Not when they are 3 years old, not when they're 7, not when they're 9, not when they're 13, not when they're adults. Never raise your voice. I see it as a form of emotional abuse. Don't do it. One day when you are in the old age home, watch how they will raise their voices for you. You will pay for it. Never raise your voice. Always talk to your children with a calm, collected, together tone and voice. Stay in control of yourself. Don't lose yourself in a moment. It's going to bite you. Don't do it. Treat all children exactly the same, to the T. Now, dear parents, we don't get this right, but we must. There's no way of not treating our children the one like this and the other one like that. The price you will pay for this is not worth it. They will turn their backs on you. The children will turn their backs on you. You must, and if you don't know how to do it, call them together and say, child A is in trouble. I need to help child A get out of trouble, but I don't have the capacity or the means or the resources to equally provide to child B and C. How do you see this collectively? What plan can we make so that I can help A without taking away from B and C? So you must have a way of equality in the system with your children. If you don't, mark my words, the relationship is not sustainable. Do everything you can to not become financially dependent on adult children. This is one of the critical things that I see so often, and that is that parents become financially dependent on adult children. This is just too much weight on the relationship. It puts too much weight on the relationship, despite the fact that it is a very challenging relationship to uphold and to keep clean. Financial dependency from a parent on adult children just overstretches the relationship, and it becomes a relationship issue. If at all possible, don't stay with adult children in the same building or on the same property. I know. There are some financial realities. Things go wrong. There is COVID, and children lose their jobs, and they are out of the rental of their apartment, and they need to move in with it. I know. That's why I started this statement by saying, if it is at all possible, don't stay with adult children in the same building or on the same property. Try everything you can not to share the same building with adult children, especially if they are married. If they are married, you've got to keep yourself out of their space and respect their space as adults, as if they are strangers. But we must do everything we can as parents to stay out of the personal and private space of our children. And it becomes 100 times more important when those young adults are married. Then the parents must respect their space physically, emotionally, and socially, and get out of it. And obviously, if you have to stay in the same building and you have to stay on the same property, then just be mature enough to stay out of their space. Just don't go into their space. You go there on invitation or you invite them to your space. So hold on to these few points, dear delegates and parents. Young adults are in search of equal partner relationships with their parents. They want to be treated as adults. They want independence for both parties. They want their parents to be independent and they want themselves to be independent emotionally, physically, financially, and socially. They want respect as equals. They want to be respected as adults and not being treated as glorified children or sort of big children. You must respect them as adults like they are strangers. Then space, they need space. We must, as parents, stay away from their private space. Please stay away from an adult child's private space. And then you must build an anchor relationship with them. And with that, I mean, they must know that whenever the storm of life becomes too challenging for them, you are the anchor that they can come to and hold on to it, and you will be steady, you will be calm, you will be collected, you will bring the relationship down, and you will support them in their troubles, whatever it takes. With that, thank you very much. Our next community initiative is about parenting teenagers. You can register shadowmatchdirect.com/parents of teenagers. And if you have an inquiry and you would like to discuss something with me, you can also send me an email. Lizette will share with you the information around that. Thank you very much. And Lizette, back to you.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing excellent content. We really appreciate your time and all the work and research that went into producing such a powerful webinar. And we do look forward to the one on the 14th of June with regards to parenting teenagers. I think that's where a lot of parents experience a lot of challenges. So thank you very much. We do look forward to that. I'm going to stop the recording. We've got some time, and I did receive one question in the chat that I would like to present to you, because we might have some of the other participants that are struggling with something similar. Thank you for attending. You don't have to run. Those of you that need to, you're welcome to. As I said, the recording will be available tomorrow. We will send it to everybody attending and all of those who have registered, and the recording will also be available on the Shadowmatch calendar. Thank you very much.